Hi everyone, it's Shar and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another speed build. So I have definitely been feeling the I barely leave my house kind of fever. I live in New York City, so I do go out and explore fairly often, but I'm really just craving the countryside and I'm saving all of my money for travel. I don't want to travel quite yet. I don't feel ready to, but when I am ready to, I want to have the money there reserved. And one of the places I'm really excited to go back to is England. I studied abroad in London for 6 months a few years ago when I was in college, and I've always wanted to go back. I've never had the funds or been settled enough in my career to do that, so I'm really excited to go back, but I definitely want to spend some time in the English countryside, and it was that desire that led to me building this house. To be absolutely clear, this is nothing like what I imagine an English country house to look like. It's just what I had in my mind. And we all know Sims, right? Play with life. I can't travel anywhere right now, so I wanted to travel in my Sims game and create this house. As you can see by the title, I think I just called it like Haunted Cottage Build or something like that. I don't know why I decided to make it haunted, but apparently I was just in a creepy mood and I wanted it to be haunted. And I had been looking at Airbnbs in the countryside in the US for a while, just in random places and states. And I kid you not, that's what inspired this build. You all know I have a very specific style when it comes to building, and this is more, I wanted the house to feel dated and old, like there's a lot of separation of space. It definitely isn't an open floor plan. There are a lot of walls. The decor is a little bit older in style, and I wanted it to feel like something you would see in Airbnb, a house that is frozen in time. It's only a 1-bedroom cottage, but that's fine. I am single. I live alone for the most part, so I wanted a cottage that had a 1-bedroom. I can be very introverted, and so that was my desire, and truly this video is me just building my dream cottage home so I can live out my fantasy of living in the countryside, which eventually will happen. I see that happening in the very near future, in the next couple of months, so maybe I'll come at you from somewhere else in the world, but for now I'm still in New York City. So I was thinking that another reason that I really wanted to build this is because we all know they announce like country living, cottage living. I don't know what the heck the pack is called, but they announced it. And that's one of the only packs I've been super excited about. If you watch all of my videos, and you'll know in a previous speed build or create a sim video, I mentioned that I was excited for Dream Home Decorator, but I didn't see what could possibly make it anything other than an oversized stuff pack. I haven't purchased a pack. I rarely ever purchase packs at full price. I always wait for them to go on sale, and they go on sale at least half a dozen times a year. So that is what I am waiting for. I was looking at the sale that they're having right now, and I realized I actually own almost all of the Sims packs except for the stuff packs, which is fine. The stuff packs make a difference to me. So I said, tell me why Dream Home Decorator is any different than an oversized stuff pack, and I stick with that statement even without owning it. It seems like the majority of the gameplay, just from watching all of the gameplay videos, is truly just the build items. And no, not even the build items, the buy mode items and the career. And as I pointed out in my old video, how is that different from the paranormal stuff pack that we got? And how is that different from the mosquito stuff pack? It's a career and a bunch of build stuff, but just make it oversized. So that's what that was. But anyway, I digress. We're not here to trash that. I'm pretty sure it's very fun to play with. I just think it should have stayed at a like stuff pack level and not necessarily a game pack level. But anyway, I digress. So I'm excited for cottage living, but I was like, why did they tell us about it so early on? Because from what I remember about the most recent expansion packs, they don't get announced until like the week before they are set to launch. And this one got announced the month before it was set to launch. That could be a new marketing strategy, but I've always noticed that the packs get leaked about a month before they get out, and they don't get announced before then. So I wondered what that was about, but I'm still really excited. And we're building the kitchen here, and I wanted it to feel so old school, and just watching myself rebuild this house is just giving me all of the nostalgia. Not because this house was especially fun to build, it was just me messing around on my vacation, but because I just want to live my country dreams. I'm also saving to buy a house ideally next year. The trouble is, I don't know where I want to live. I have flexibility in that my job is remote and it has always been remote, so I can truly live wherever it is that I desire, not just in the US, but in the world. And of course, I'm going to acknowledge that is a privilege, and there's a lot of discourse to be had about whether or not I should be doing that. But anyway, I digress. I can do that should I choose to do that, and I want to be very mindful about where I live. But I was mentioning earlier that I was looking at places to stay in the US, and this is a deeper conversation that I mean to have, but it is 8 o'clock in the morning. I just woke up and apparently I am feeling deep. I'm not white. I'm not. That's very obvious to anyone that sees me in real life. I'm not a white woman. I tend to travel alone as well. And something that I consider, especially within the US, is where I'm going and if it's actually safe for me to go there in terms of racism. And so many articles talk about these really beautiful small towns. And I don't mean to be stereotypical in any way at all. These are just my very real concerns. It's not necessarily that I think the people are going to be terrible, although sometimes that is a concern if I know it's a very, very small conservative town in a very close-knit community and I would be the only non-white person there. But I also think about police brutality, which is a very valid concern. I don't want to be anywhere that I'm going to draw unnecessary attention to myself, and that's not often considered in any of these posts. I can tell they're written by white people. So I'm trying to figure out where is the ideal place for me to go where I can just hang out in nature and be by myself in a cottage style setting and not feel like I have to be scared for my life. And that is coming a lot from anxiety as well. So I want to acknowledge that not all small towns are bad or racist or anything like that. It's just something that I have to consider whenever I want to travel anywhere within the US, especially, is where I'm going safe. So that is what I'm thinking about. I was also going to go to Greece a little bit earlier this month, but I ultimately decided not to go to Greece for a lot of reasons, but it just didn't feel right in that moment. And that has nothing to do with racism, by the way. It was just me being in Greece right now didn't feel right. And I also was like very concerned and anxious about, well, where am I going to get the COVID-19 testing? I am fully vaccinated, but I was trying to figure that out. And I just realized, you know what? I'm not ready to do that. Right now, my anxiety is acting up. Usually I'm not this anxious, but my anxiety sometimes flares up in these ways. So anyway, back to the build. At this point, I decided that I wanted it to be haunted. If you don't know, my formal education and background for my initial degree, I have 2 degrees, is in writing, and this is my writer's cottage. If Shar retreated to the English countryside and stayed in a cottage to write, this is the cottage I would be in, and I also specialize in dark fantasy. So of course I chose to go for a haunted house because I wanted that paranormal element. But because it's my dream cottage, I'm probably not going to live in that as a sim. I don't feel like being haunted. Ghosts scare me. But for the sims that you want to play, if you want to download this house, and the haunted element is a really fun aspect, and I just really love the cottage style. I was going to turn it into a farm, but you know what? I play whimsy stories, and they already run what's essentially a farm. I'm just going to wait for the cottage stuff to come out. It's unfortunate that the cottage stuff is going to come out by the time we're probably even close to done with Generation 2. I haven't decided who Generation 2 is for Whimsy Story. And if you're new to my channel and this is the first of my videos that you've stumbled across, hi, welcome. I have almost 200 videos, and Whimsy Stories is one of my current challenges. And in Whimsy Stories, we have 2 sims who, well, we start with 1 sim. She has to be homeless. She's building herself from the ground up, and the idea is that they live in a very small house, but their house is very full of love. She marries her soulmate, etc. That's happened. We have our main sim, Faye. Faye is our Generation 1. Faye has married Kelton, and Kelton and Faye now have 5 children together. They wanted a big family. That was always my intention for them, although it's very stressful with having 4 toddlers. But anyway, they get married. They have 5 kids, and I haven't decided who Generation 2 is going to be. I really love Lily. I think I might lean towards Lily, but I can be a shallow bitch, let's just be honest, and I picked the sim that I enjoy playing the most and the one that I personally find the most attractive. I'm sure that says something about that about me, but anyway, so that's what I do. So I'm waiting for pretty much all of the kids to age up. It will be a little while, but Faye and Kelton had their kids back to back, so I should be able to do that. So I'm excited to see them aged up as teenagers. I also did the exact same thing with the Rose generation for my Not So Berry challenge, which I also play. It was supposed to be Arden Rose who was going to be the Rose gen, but I ended up choosing her brother Micah James because I liked Micah James a little bit more, and I liked the storyline that I had in my mind for him, although I initially had hesitations about that because when I was creating Micah James's storyline, when I thought that it was still going to be Arden Rose who would be the Rose gen and Micah James would fade into the background, I knew that Micah James was going to be bisexual in some capacity. But when I saw him age up to a teenager and how much I loved him, I knew he had to be our Rose generation. So I wanted to be very careful and mindful of Micah James being a bisexual sim who is our Rose gen, simply because the Rose generation is all about the serial romantic aspiration, and bisexual people are often labeled as being promiscuous, and it's really harmful and negative, and I didn't want to promote that. But I decided to go with Micah James as our Rose gen anyway because I wanted to explore his sexuality and his relationships and him becoming the leader of the sim world but also finding himself. So I disclaimed in the very first episode of that his series is let Micah James be a person. Just because he's bisexual and has the serial romantic trait doesn't mean that he's a serial romantic because he's bisexual. He's just a serial romantic. So I don't know if I did that storyline justice, but in many ways it mirrored my own storyline and my own kind of understanding of my sexuality and what it means to be a sexual being and how I feel about people and just a lot of things. So I was working through some things with Micah James as well, but Rose gen is officially over and we're on to the yellow generation. So we're coming to the end of the speed build. You can't tell because I'm zoomed so far out, but the walls on the house are actually white brick. It doesn't work as well with the kind of like hay style roof I went with, but I like this roof a little bit more for just what I was going for and the aesthetic I was going for, because I wanted it to have a trim. So it's not perfect, but I really enjoy it. And then I just placed down a bunch of trees, which you bet your bottom dollar that jacked up the price of this lot quite a lot, because most of these trees, as you can see, are 300 plus simoleons. So this lot is definitely not a starter home. This is for your bougie sim who has decided to run away from life and escape to the English countryside, or just the countryside. Like I said, I don't think this is an English house. I did not even bother to look at English houses because I just wanted to build a cottage. And my favorite feature is these cute little flowers. I changed the blue ones because they're too bright, and it just leads to this beautiful little pathway, and you just gotta imagine it. You frolic through the forest, you come to your little cottage home, you sit in the living room and you read a book, and you'll notice that there's very little technology in the home. There was one like very old school TV in the bedroom, and that's about it. And then I add this outdoor area in the back with the bench under the tree where you could journal and read. We have the picnic table where you could bring out your lunch, and then I just add in trash cans because I realized there's no trash cans in the house or anywhere near the house. So I go back in and I add that. But we're coming to the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed watching this build come together. If you're excited for the country living, cottage living pack, let me know in the comments below, and I'm going to see you next time. Bye, everyone.